You're listening to the Meant for Millions podcast, and in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing how to cultivate a 7-figure identity. So this goes beyond mindset. So all the things that I have been teaching before with mindset, it's really taking it to the next level when you step into the 7-figure identity. You're not going to want to miss today's episode if you're someone who wants to create a 7-figure $1 million business.
There's a whole world out there of people that need you to serve them. You are now investing your time and your energy, and you are stepping up to be that person and that woman who makes investments like this, who takes her business seriously, who's willing to go all in, who is driven, who is ambitious, who is going to make shit happen no matter what.
This is Meant for Millions. Here's your host, Jenna Faith.
Welcome to Meant for Millions, the podcast for online entrepreneurs who want to create wealth and freedom with their business. So you are in the right place if you're looking for the mindset and strategy to get seen, known, and paid online. I am your host, Jenna Faith, success and mindset strategist for entrepreneurs who know that they are meant for millions. So each and every week, you'll get a short 15 to 20 minute audio training on how to build wealth from the inside out. There is absolutely no fluff here. And I can't wait to dive into today's episode where I'm going to be sharing how to cultivate that 7-figure identity. So we talk a lot about mindset. We talk a lot about strategy, but really there's a missing piece. There's like that next level that's actually going to take you from 0 to 6 figures to multiple 6 figures to 7 figures. So we're going to dive right in that today. Without further ado, let's get started. So if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, if you have listened to these podcast episodes, you heard me talk a lot about mindset. I have talked about identity here and there. We talk sometimes about strategy, but I really want to dive into the heart today of creating that 7-figure identity, because this is really the key to having all the things that you want and really being the person who can hold space for that kind of business, who can hold space for that kind of income and that kind of impact. So a successful business starts from the inside out. I truly believe that. I started this business really talking a lot about strategy, really talking a lot about the things that need to be done in order to have a successful business. And for some time, I really thought that that was it, and a lot of people do feel like, just tell me what to do. Just give me the strategies. Just give me the tactics. How do I get to clients? How do I make more money? How do I get to $1 million? And that's just such a small piece. It is an important piece. It's not like you can have a successful business without that, but it's such a small piece in the grand scheme of things. What really matters is who you are, who you be in the process that allows you to create bigger space, that allows you to create epic income, that allows people to want to be in your space and want to purchase from you effortlessly. And what that is your identity. So for me, identity is the next level of mindset. So when people typically start to get into like a personal development routine, it's usually starting around gratitude. We actually have a show that is on gratitude in one of the earlier shows. And it's a great place to start because it really gets you in the mind frame of, okay, let me look and let me start to realize and let me start to point my direction to the positive things, to really start to be aware of all of the things that are actually good in my life. Because we tend to, as humans, want to focus on the bad things or focus on the negative things, or those are the things that are just constantly in our field. Those are the things that we give attention to. So when you're first on that personal development / mindset journey, it's like, okay, gratitude. It's a very easy thing to do. And then people typically start to go into like affirmations, I am statements, really starting to maybe journal, visualize, meditate. There's tools for all of that, right? Like there's so many different ways for you to create a mindset that is really rock solid. Like you can get into a place where, you can't be messed with, or when something actually happens, it doesn't affect you the way that it has in the past. And mindset is, again, a really amazing thing for us to have. We have to have it. We have to have a great mindset. But no amount of mindset work and no amount of inner work will do what identity work will do for you. So you can actually have a rock solid mindset. You can, be a master manifester. You can be someone who's super grateful for what they have. You can be someone who sees the vision, who really connects. Maybe you do vision boards. Maybe you do meditation, and still you don't have what you want in terms of, we're going to talk about business here because this is a business podcast, but it could also be your relationships, your body, and other things that are happening in your life, right? So the reason why it's not the way that you want it to be, the reason why you don't have the things that you desire is because you have not yet become the person who is able and ready to receive it. So I'm going to repeat that. The reason why you don't have the things you want and you don't have the things that you desire is because you have not yet become the person who is ready and able to receive it. And this is really like a gut check for a lot of people because a lot of people are like, man, I've been like doing all the things. I've been logistically and physically doing the things when it comes to my business. I have been doing the inner work, right? So I've been doing the journaling. I've been doing the mindset. I've been trying to manifest and still it's not happening. And it's because you haven't shifted out of your current state. You haven't shifted out of your current identity of being someone who struggles, of being someone who, makes things more difficult than they have to be, of being someone that only can create a certain level of income, of being someone who can only hold space for a certain amount of clients. So in order to really get to that next level, you have to shift your identity, who you actually are, who you be on a daily basis, the things that you do, the habits that you have, the people that you're surrounded with, the actions that you take, the decisions that you make, the investments that you put forth or don't, right? The people on your team. So it's really like all of these things that you're still doing the old way and you expect to have a different result. And so this is why the identity work is so crucial because it's like you actually have to change. You actually have to do something different. You can't just think your way to success. You can't just hustle your way to millions of dollars. I've seen people hustle their way to six figures. I feel like it's very easy to hustle to six figures, but going beyond that, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to get tired. You're going to feel like you can't do it all. So that's why when the shift into multiple six figures or the shift into seven figures is really about who you're becoming. It's about who you are while you're doing the things, right? It's about how you present yourself. It is about how other people view you. It is about how you choose to live every day. It's about how you choose to show up every day. Those are the things that are important. So there is actually another episode called Closing the Gap, and I want you to listen to that. I'll have that linked in the show notes today. I'm going to talk about it briefly because this is a good way to just have an awareness around what your actual identity is now and what you want it to be. The identity you want to think about is, okay, if you want to be a seven-figure business owner, then what would a seven-figure business owner do? Most likely, they're going to do things very differently than you're doing them. They're investing differently. They have team. They're probably investing in advertising. I don't want to say that they're working more, but they're working smarter. They have different agendas. They have bigger goals. They're probably surrounded by really amazing people who challenge them, who push them. They are not letting little things bother them. They have high regard for their emotional intelligence. They are committed to the process. They're committed to who they want to be. So I want you to think about that person that you desire to be, that ultimate thing that you want, whether it's a seven-figure business owner, whether it is someone who is thin and rich, whether it's someone who has an amazing soulmate relationship, whatever that is for you. What is that person? Who is that person? What do they do on a daily basis? What are their decisions? What are their actions? What are their habits? What are their commitments? What are their investments? Where are they spending their time? One of the things I get a lot from people is like, well, Jen, I don't really know what a millionaire would act like because I'm not one. But there are so many examples of people who are, and you can really just look at them even from the outside and see that they're operating much differently. They're showing up much differently. They're doing things much differently than you are. So observe, what would someone who is a $1 million business owner do? What are they currently doing? And I don't want you to look at that person from a point of comparison or making yourself feel bad or guilty for not being there yet, but really from a place of like, awesome, like this is what that person would do. This is how they act. This is how they show up every day. So that's the first part of the exercise, is to just really create this picture and this vision of what is a seven-figure business owner. Who is she? What does she do? What decisions does she make? What habits does she have? Who is she surrounded by? Like, kind of go through every nitty-gritty detail. Now, here comes the awareness part. I want you to do this for yourself. What are you doing on a daily basis? How are you investing? How are you showing up? What habits do you have? Who are you surrounded by? What kinds of people do you have on your team? How are you showing up every day online? How clear are you about your vision? Are there things that you're tolerating that you absolutely would not tolerate if you were already there? So that's another really good question to ask yourself is like, well, if I was already $1 million business owner, like, what would I do? What decision would I make? A really easy example of this would be like, let's say an investment. Let's say you want to invest in either a mastermind or maybe Facebook ads or something like that. And you know that making this investment is going to uplevel your business. You know that this is something that is going to take you to that next place. But from the person you are today, from the identity that you have today, it feels scary, right? It feels like, I don't really know how I would invest in that. I don't really have the money, or if I spend the money, it's going to be a struggle or it's going to be a challenge. But if you were already there, would you make that decision? So one of the things that I actually started doing when I was investing in coaching and mentorship was I used to always ask like what the price is before I made the decision. So I know that a lot of people do that. I think it's just human nature for us to want to know, like, can we afford this thing, right? But that's kind of the opposite thinking, because if you continue to make decisions from where you are today, you're going to continue to be that person you are today. So you actually have to make decisions from who you want to be and figure it out. Like, there is always a way. For somebody who is driven and ambitious and really wants something, you will find a way. You will find a way. So one of the things that I started doing was, instead of just immediately asking like, what's the price? And then basing my decision on that, I would actually, do the discovery call or get the information that I needed for the course or the program or the mastermind. And I would really sit with it. Like, I would not ask the price at the end of the call when they would say, hey, do you have any other questions? Where typically that's where someone would say, oh yeah, what's the investment? I would never ask for the investment. I know that people thought that that was weird, I would just be like, no more questions. I'm going to think about this for a little bit and I'll get back to you. So I'm an emotional authority in human design. So I'm someone that actually needs to like process things and think things through. So I actually would ask myself, is this something that is going to expand me and my business? Is this something that I feel like I really need? Is this something that I'm excited about? And I would answer those questions first. And I would make my decision first before I knew what the price was. And I know, like I said, that I know that this is scary for a lot of people, especially if you're in a situation where money is tight or you have to kind of watch your wallet. But if you're always in that space, you're always going to be in that space. So I started doing that, and then I would make the decision. It's either a hell yes for me or not really feeling it. And so obviously, if I wasn't really feeling it, I didn't really know what the investment was anyway, because I never asked. But if it was something that I was like, yes, hell yes, this thing is definitely going to expand my business. I know I'll recoup my investment. I know that I'm going to 10x the money that I put out. Then I would say yes, and then ask for the investment. So that's just one example of like what you would do, right? So operating from the identity of the person who's already there. Couple questions or a couple journaling prompts that I want to give to you. What is the identity of the current millionaire? How is the identity of the current millionaire different than mine? How is the identity of the current millionaire different than mine? So when you do those two exercises and you kind of create that vision of the identity of the 7-figure business owner and then your current identity, how are they different? What are the things, the habits, the decisions, the investments that are different? The next question is, what's the old programming that's still running your life, your business, or your ego? So we all have programming since we were children, right? We learn things from our parents, who learn things from their parents, who learn things from their parents. And so I always say this, I'm like, it is always like kind of silly that we have these habits and these perceptions and these programming, because we're literally running off of programs that we learned from people who don't even exist anymore. Life is so different now than it was in the 1900s or in the 1950s, like when my parents were born. It's even so different than like the 1990s, right? The opportunities that we have. So it's like you're running this old program of it has to be hard. I have to struggle. It's not easy to make money. Being rich is bad. Like whatever those programs are that you have, they're running off of something that's pretty ancient compared to the opportunities that you have now. So if you really look at that, it's kind of silly, right? It's like you have cultivated and you have taken on these programs and these beliefs, essentially, that are so outdated, but you're still running them. You're still running them and they're still running your life. So what's the old programming that is still running your life, your business, or your ego? Now, one last thing that I want to leave you with is in order to hit six figures, when I was thinking about hitting my first six figures, I had to think like a millionaire. I always 10x my goal. I always 10x what I would do. And there's actually another episode also about the 10x mindset. I would not have made my first six figures if I was thinking like a six-figure business owner or an employee. When I started making millions, I was thinking beyond that. So I'm thinking as a multimillionaire, I'm thinking as, a 10-figure business owner, because that allows you to stretch and that allows you to really get into that creative place. Because when your goals are kind of small and you're going from let's say you're going from 5K to 7K, you're not doing anything different. Your identity is not changing. How you're showing up is not really changing at all either. You're probably just like, oh, I'll just get a couple more people in there. I might show up a little bit extra, but you're really not fundamentally changing who you are. You're really not fundamentally changing your identity. And so in order to do that, you have to expand. You have to challenge yourself to go bigger, to think like that person that you ultimately want to be. Because when your identity shifts to the person who makes 7 figures a year, who never has less than a, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 month, right? Because that's just who you are. When you're a person who just doesn't accept certain things in their life or doesn't tolerate certain things in their life because that's just who you are. So that is the identity shift. The mindset piece is just it's kind of surface level. The mindset piece is like, okay, I can think my way through this. I can do the inner work. I can find out what happened to me or why I think this way. And I can think differently and I can shift my thinking. But the identity is the key piece. The identity is a piece that's really going to fast track you. Go back and listen to the episode on closing the gap because that'll explain the exercise that I gave you a little bit more in terms of, really understanding and knowing and being aware of what would a 7-figure business owner do, be, have, invest, spend their time with. What are you currently doing? And what is the gap between those two things? Because when you can close that gap between those two things, that's when the magic happens. That's when you just completely shift and you don't go back. I rarely find that people ever go back. When they have reached a new identity, when they have reached a new level of their life, their business, their income, their impact, you rarely go back because it's just become who you are. You don't go back to that old version of you. Now, the mindset work is also just a consistent thing. So it's like, okay, now I can shift my identity. I have to constantly do the work. I have to constantly do the inner work. I have to constantly reconnect with my vision. I have to constantly remind myself of who I am and who I want to be, right? But then when you get to that next identity, then it's a new identity. And then it's like you're working towards that. So you're always working towards that evolution. You're always working towards that growth. But in order to become a 7-figure business owner, you actually have to be her. You actually have to think like her, act like her, have habits like her. So do these exercises and take this to heart because this is really the key. This is where I've seen the majority of my clients shift massively. This is where the quantum leaps come from. When you can close that gap and you can just shift the identity because no amount of mindset work is going to get you there. It's no amount of journaling or visualizing or meditation that's going to shift your identity. It's you making a choice. It's you making a decision. It's you taking the actual action steps. It's you actually doing the thing and showing up as that person. So that is it for today's episode. Short and sweet, but definitely impactful. Again, I want you to take this to heart, just like with every other episode. I want you to do the journaling prompts. You can actually head on over to the show notes at jenscalia.com/E88. That is the letter E and the number 88. And there you will be able to download the show notes. You'll also be linked to some of the episodes that I mentioned here today with Closing the Gap and also the 10X Mindset episode. So if you are loving this show, I would love for you to make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. And also, I want to get this in front of more amazing entrepreneurs just like you who are committed to creating incredible change and transformation in the world. And in order to do that, We need some more positive reviews on iTunes. So if you're loving the show, please go ahead and do that. And let's get this information into the hands and into the hearts of more entrepreneurs who want to change the world, more female entrepreneurs who want to change the world. That's kind of been my mission lately. It's like there are lots of rich men. There are lots of gurus out there who are male, who are killing it, who are crushing it. And in my honest opinion, there is not enough female millionaires. And that is my mission from 2021 and beyond, is to help create more millionaires. So make sure that you come back also next week, where you'll get another quick bite episode to build your business from the inside out. Thanks for listening.
Let's keep this conversation going. Join us in the private discussion group, The Ambitious Babe, where ambitious, driven online entrepreneurs go to get the mindset and strategy to grow and scale their online empires. Join The Ambitious Babe at jenscalia.com/tribe.